Hey, Grand Ascension. It's me, Carolyn Denise, back to do another reading. I wanted to just deep dive right in because I've got a lot of groundwork to cover today. I'm going to be doing at least three videos back to back. You'll see different uploads coming to you in different timestamps. The very first video that I want to get into is to pick back up where we left off on the book, The Navigator Across the Ice Walls. Okay. The last time I came on, I read from chapters 8 through 12, and now we're going to pick back up on chapter 13. Just to recap, you remember this gentleman took a crew beyond the they went to Antarctica, and they went beyond the ice walls of Antarctica, and he ended up going into a strange land. His crew disappeared. A ship that he saw in the distance actually met him, and it was days that he was afloat, adrift, and did not know where his crew was. And so these beings picked him up and took them back to their location. And so that's where we pick up. He's in a strange land, strange world, talking to different people, different beings, ancestral humans, different races. And now we're getting into the last part, which is chapter 13, or the next part, which is chapter 13, the giant races. And it reads, after a long silence, simply observing our surroundings, we gazed at most beautiful paths, lined with some yellow lights, which didn't seem to be connected to anything. Ships soared across the deep blue sky, leaving behind curious trails, sometimes forming spirals. The sky, always a vibrant blue, and the ever-present red sun now stood before us. In the distance, two figures were walking toward us. One of them was extremely tall, towering over his companion by nearly two full bodies. Ventus walked to my right and raised his hand in greeting toward the approaching figures. The smaller of the two returned the gesture, and then Ventus introduced me. Tyler, it's a pleasure to meet you, said the smaller man, extending his hand for a handshake. The giant did not speak, nor did he make any gesture. He simply stared at me. His beard was long and fiery red, so long that it was tied off in several sections. His hair was also long, the same deep red hue. He wore an orange robe, though its design was different from the others I had seen. The smaller man was clearly Magri. I could tell by his large eyes, very big eyes, and his fine features and his pale skin. Tyler, Ventus said, this gentleman here is an Anakin giant, one of the glorious warriors who saved the ancestral humanity. It is thanks to them that we are alive today. I'm going to call out, I was listening over the weekend because I've been off the last 5 days. Today is my last day. I've just been chilling out, relaxing, and just kind of going within, doing some things that I need to do on my staycation. And I was listening to a podcast, and it talked about a gentleman, and I want to remember his last name. Is it Andrew Newman? He was a gentleman that was all over social media like TikTok and YouTube. He had a page, and he had caught a giant. And interesting enough, this caused him a great distress, and he actually ended up disappearing. He actually passed away several months ago. And a lot of people speculate that the reason why he met an untimely demise is because of the social media posts that he was making about the giants that he had caught. I don't know if you guys remember seeing that. I don't know if you've even saw it on online, but I may post another story. I know I've reshared something, and this was probably like 6 to 8 months ago on my social media account. I think it was over here on YouTube. I don't know if I shared it on Facebook, but I do know that we are not alone. We've never been alone. It's not a belief. Belief is a lack of knowledge and knowing. I do know that. And I've been knowing that since I was a child, right? I'm just saying, either you know or you don't. So these beings still exist today. I dare say the government is hiding a lot more than what they want us to know. And there are a lot of people who are coming out and speaking up, so to speak, whistleblowers, right? Some of them are still employed contractors with the government, so they're not going to risk saying anything. But if you listen to the accounts that I share over from Lilith Dread, Donovan Dread, I think it's the Paranormal Files, dark waters. There's a lot of different channels that cater to this content. And some will say, oh, this is just fantastical. It's made up. It's not real. If you've read as much as I have and you've studied, then you will come to the understanding that this world that we think that we know is not what it truly is. And we've not been told the truth about a great many things. Okay. My point is that the Anakin giants still are, they still exist. They're still around. And I dare say they have advanced technology. They watch us among other watchers. I'm just going to say that. All right. It's only so much I can say over here anyway. So let's get back into it. So he described what he was wearing, how he looked, and he said, "One of these glorious warriors who saved the ancestral humanity. It is thanks to them that we're alive today." Ventus then began speaking with them in their native language, where I couldn't make out a single word. The giant pointed at me several times, seemingly asking something I would never come to understand. After a brief exchange, they slowly walked back along the same path they had come. "Captain, they were very pleased to see you. The Anakin giant's name is Garion Ka." And he mentioned that it had been a very long time since he last saw a new human cross into the lands. I didn't know how to respond. I was utterly stunned to see a giant standing before me for the first time. "I understand your surprise," Ventus said. "Even though we've spoken about all of this, it's quite something to see them in person, just as it must be with us and Zamagri. I think meeting the Magri didn't hit me as hard because my body was so exhausted back then, I could barely process anything." Ventus then explained, "There are several types of giants. Again, there are several types of giants, folks. There are the Anakin, which is in this book. Let me grab it. Excuse me." Y'all know what this is? Y'all know I'm ate up with this color, right? This is my favorite. This is my favorite color. This turquoise or teal and blue, right? So this is one of my Bibles, okay? The Anakin giants are in the so-called quote unquote King James Version Bible, okay? Y'all know this, right? And there's, like he said, there's several different types. I may pull out a scripture in here and read it to you in just a second. So it says, there are several types of giants. There are the Anakin, the ones who typically wear their hair and beards long like that. They were the ones who joined forces with us, the Ancestrials, to create the empire that spanned across all continents called Great Tartary, or Tartaria. But you already know how that ended. Ventus looked down, sorrow heavy in his expression, as if thorns still remained lodged deep in his heart over that past. He continued, "Then they were other giants who also helped us, especially when things grew desperate inside the first lands right before the reset. All of them already knew how it would end once they realized that even with all the technology we had, it wouldn't be enough to counter the treaty made between the custodians and the Anunnaki to annihilate us. The giants of the South, also called the Patagonians, which I have a book right over here that talks about the Patagonian giants who helped cross through the southern passages. And although there were titanic beings or colossal heights reached 13 to 14 meters, they chose not to get involved except for the three of them who did everything they could to help us escape." All right. "The Jotnar helped from the northern passages, but the route was particularly difficult because of the Detlef portal and the complications involved in crossing into Asgard. As a result, they faced tremendous hardships and many perished during the war. Those who survived are said to have escaped toward the land of Aquarius." Okay, here is a picture of what these beings look like. Okay. However, that only caused further chaos because there are creatures in those lands at the early stage of development who attacked and killed several Jotnar, unaware of who they were. These creatures can create bubbles of reality to generate temporary, altered environments that lure beings from the oceans into their shores. Once inside these bubbles, escape becomes nearly impossible. On top of that, Anunnaki ships eventually arrived at those shores to begin building pyramids there. The Anunnaki not only seek to reset the lands inside the first barrier, but also want to seize control here within the second wall, just as they did in the past during the first humanity when the custodians controlled much of these lands. But what happened to these Jotnar giants? I asked. No one really knows. It's possible they managed to reach the lands of Asgard or Yggdrasil, but we can't confirm it because none of us have been there, have been able to enter those lands so far. There are also the Rakshasa giants, but they too chose not to get involved in the technological war. They preferred to offer assistance after the reset. Where's a highlighter? So let's recap. So he's telling us there's several races. One is the Rakshasa, Raksasa, and then the Jotnar, Jotnar, and then the Anakin, which is the ones I'm more familiar with. And Gerald Clark, my mentor, talked about him, talked about the Anunnaki and the Anakin giants. So then it says, there are other groups of giants as well, but I think I've least named the ones most active in the contact with humanity. So there's 3 different ones that contact with us, okay? Do the giants only speak their native language, I asked. Some giants can speak human languages and certain language in ancient tongues, but most prefer their own language. There are, however, translation devices created in advanced technology to allow communication. Where do you think we have those little boxes now? Those little digital things that you can buy on TikTok and on Amazon, where you can speak into it as in English and it translates to whatever language you want to speak. It's crazy. It says a translation device is created with advanced technology to allow communication. And you think we don't have the technology from these beings. People are just sorely misinformed, I'm telling you. Though those devices were originally designed for interacting with beings from other worlds more than handling human languages. That too is another layer of custodial control, but we won't go into that for now. Come now, Tyler, Ventus said. Riz and the group are waiting for us. There's another part of this island we want to show you. So we quickened our pace, heading toward where the Riz stood waiting at an advanced harbor on the far side of the vast island. Let's get into chapter 14. The Venusians, or the Venusians, Venusins. And this is what they look like, supposedly. Okay? Still big eyes. Big eyes. All right. We found ourselves aboard another strange modern vessel. Not as large as the first, but also entirely white. Honestly, had completely lost track of how much time had passed since my arrival. I no longer kept count of the red suns. As a result, I relied mostly on how tired my body felt, although it had been quite some time since I had experienced that deep exhaustion I used to feel at night back in my lands. I assumed it was because of the food and the infusions we drank here. Everyone drank those herbal infusions almost constantly. They treated it as something extremely important, though I had never mustered the courage to ask about it. Riz was the one accompanying me along the way. They were speaking among themselves in their native language, while I simply allowed my mind to drift, reflecting on everything that had happened, gazing at the waves of the scattered lights from the villages visible in the distance across the southern Isles of Laurentia. And that's where they are. I would love to go see that place. I'm telling you, I know a couple of you all have commented on my reading, and I'm telling you, if I got the chance to leave, baby, I would not come back. I'm just going to tell you, I ain't even going to lie about it. I don't care what government agency is watching. You ain't got to worry about me coming back, baby. I will not be coming back here. I know the truth. I know what's up. They told me we were heading toward the most remote part of the larger cities, a region bordering Lemuria. Although still at a considerable distance, even so, the Kamar Sea was something to be respected. It was taken very seriously here. They followed extreme safety measures when navigating those waters, despite the fact that the technology far surpassed anything I had ever seen in my own lands. Okay, I thought about how grateful I should feel for being alive after crossing the ice walls in my old ship. Some members of the group had retreated to another section of the vessel, leaving me alone with Riz and Ventus. I took the opportunity to ask, I've heard mention of the Venetians. Who are they? Riz took the lead and answered, well, Tyler, I'll explain. The Venetians are beings who come from the world located to the north of ours, but to reach it, you must cross two domes, two ice walls, and a final ring through the Pharaoh's Peak. Or alternatively, you could attempt the path of never resting, though that route is not recommended. The beings of Venus have been in deep conflict with the same colonizers we face for a very long time. In their efforts to help humanity, they have brought groups to settle here in lands near the first dome. Today, they can be found both in Laurentia and Lemuria, though they are not easy to spot as they work in the hatch-like underground laboratories hidden where the tunnel networks connect. Do they fight for humanity too? They fight for humanity, yes, but also to defend their own brothers. The conflict with the parasites has existed since the beginning, and their race has never been able to develop naturally because of it, much like what happened and still happens in all of the other 178 worlds contained within the Great Dome. The Venetians know human history well, and it's said, though we cannot confirm it, that they made contact with the first humanity, the one born from the five masters who took physical form to battle against the colonizers, attempting to enter the celestial lands. However, only pure souls aligned with the source can cross into those lands. Any being driven by greed or control, like the custodians and the Anunnaki, suffers immediate disintegration upon attempting to enter. They have tried countless times using various types of technology, even sacrificing many humans and beings from other races in their desperate attempt to breach the mysterious lands. The Nashishima, the divine spark, and I hope I'm saying that right, Neshama, Neshama, the divine spark, the power within us, right? Within each human was designed as a passport return to the celestial lands after physical death. After we exit these avatar bodies, we are programmed, or our spirit, or our spark, or the energy, okay, by every human is designed as a passport to return to the celestial lands. The colonizers, lacking this spark, became trapped within the dome worlds, which fueled their desperate quest to enter. So that makes sense why they're fighting. They're acting like some plum ass fools right now. And of course, they handpicked the Zionist puppets who are none other than incubator babies. Okay. And so they're now in key positions of power all around the world, and they're messing up this dome. Everything that we have here, it's poison, the air, the water, the food, the soil, everything is poison here now. So it says the custodians and the Anunnaki even tried creating hybrids between humans and various other species, is what we see in the national parks and everywhere else, including their own, but they failed. They also genetically altered the Patagonian giants and created hybrids between them and humans, blending part of their own genetic material, but even that failed. They did, however, use these beings for experiments conducted on certain islands between what we know as South America and the Antarctic Peninsula. All right? I'm going to say that one more time because he's alluded to this a couple of times in other texts. He's talked about these lands, okay? Again, they did experiments, okay? Created hybrids between humans, blending part of their own genetic material, but that failed. They did, however, use beings for experiments conducted on certain islands between what you know as South America and the Antarctic Peninsula. There are tons of lands that are not on our world maps right now. And they have this shit on lockdown. I'm telling you. They have this on lockdown here. All right. Certain government agencies and NGOs. All right. Certain corporations. In the midst of the intense conversation, we heard the same high-pitched sound from the vessel, signaling that we were nearing land. We quickly disembarked, and while the landscape was somewhat different, it wasn't drastically changed. There was no large city or massive crater here. Instead, white dome-shaped structures gleamed brightly, illuminated against the surrounding terrain. Chapter 15, the difficulties of crossing the dome. All right, we're going to read one more, okay? So, and this is the picture that it has. Look at this. This is beautiful. The animation. We walked about 400 meters along a kind of wooden walkway, our surroundings still tropical, filled with lush vegetation I didn't recognize. The landscape immersed us in a world of violet and yellow hues. From one of the white domes, a person with human features emerged, holding a strange jar filled with unfamiliar herbs. He greeted us politely and handed the jar to Ventus, spoke briefly in the native language, and then left without addressing me at all. Ventus quickly mentioned that I shouldn't take offense. The man was simply in a hurry. Then Ventus explained that I would need to drink these herbs because crossing the first dome the way I did was highly inadvisable, and it could have left me with lasting effects. So I started drinking the infusion. It tasted absolutely awful. The entire walk, I couldn't shake the fear of what might happen to me, although Ventus and Riz tried to reassure me, saying that in most cases nothing serious happens, and that in any case, if something had gone wrong, I'd probably already be dead by now. That's comforting. Still, my curiosity got the better of me, and I finally woke up the courage to ask Riz what happened. I finally worked up the courage to ask Riz what exactly could happen to someone who crossed the dome unprepared, which is what I would like to do. Riz always blunt and to the point, didn't sugarcoat her response. She began to list. Well, Tyler, if you really want to know, I'll tell you. A person who crosses a dome without prior preparation could experience progressive cellular disintegration, a spatial temporal disorientation, intense pressure, a psychotic fracture, and a few other issues. But don't worry, we'll check you out today at the Magri Laboratory located here in the southern part of Laurentia, which we call the Amphidenaria. I was completely stunned by the sheer number of beings that could go. I was completely stunned by the sheer number of things that could go wrong with my body. Well, he's doing well if he doesn't have any of those effects. Okay, I agree with them. I mean, if he was gonna, if his body would have given out, he probably would have been dead by now. I mean, look how many times they've crossed different barriers. So, I mean, I don't know. It says I even started somatizing symptoms, which led me to sit down for a while on some nearby rocks, breathing in pure tropical air that flowed down from the nearby slopes. The wind started to blow fiercely, and although the sky was clear at the moment, I remembered seeing clouds earlier, so I assumed that rain was possible here too. I was still extremely anxious, so I asked Riz why crossing the ice walls could cause so many different types of problems. And Riz answered, besides the fact that your electromagnetic field could become distorted, affecting your central nerves, your balance, and your coordination, the most common effect is what I mentioned earlier. Spatial temporal disorientation. Your perception of time could shift dramatically, making you feel like only minutes have passed when in reality days or even years could have gone by. Years, I repeated, overwhelmed. That's right, Tyler. You have to understand that the human body, even though it's connected to the source, okay, is still exposed to radiation or vibratory energy of the dome. This exposure can trigger a temporary or even permanent collapse if you don't find a sealed environment to protect yourself. Although, thanks to the infusion you drank when we found you, even though several suns had already passed, you have recovered quite well. And look at this drawing. This is amazing. Look at this. Now I know some of you are just like, wow, Carolyn, your mind is just all over the place with these readings and with these stories. And I'm here to tell you that I mean, it's not even a belief. It's about knowledge and the lack thereof. Either you know or you don't, right? We're at 24 minutes, and I'm going to read one more chapter, okay? And then I'm going to stop. All right, so let's get through this one. Chapter 16, The Other Lands of the Second Dome. And this is what it looks like. So this is the ice wall. So remember, we're in the center. Then you go through the Ditlov passage. There's several different portal passages. And then you're in the second ring with other lands. And then you go further out and other walls. And then there's further lands. It just keeps going out and out and out. Okay. This is what was that's the illusion that we have when we are floating through space. We're a ball. We have all these planets above us. Like it says in the books that I've read, these are projections. So what we see in the sky is a projection, and it's not our true sky. And so there are the planets that we call Venus, Mars, Neptune, whatever, but these are domes or other cellular membranes. They look like lands or continents, but they're not. They're actually worlds, okay? But they're separated by a plasma field, if that makes sense, right? So let's get into chapter 16. The other lands of the second dome. Although I was grateful for the effort that had made to transport me here so I could take this infusion, which according to them could save my life, it still seemed extreme to me to bring me all the way here in such a large vessel. There were about 15 people on board. Later, Riz explained that the trip also served another purpose to collect more of the herbs they called Rafeshim. Rafeshim. She told me they were waiting for another shipment to arrive from a different vessel, which was why we were staying at this port right at the edge of the Kumari Sea. As we waited, with time passing slowly, I asked Riz what other lands lay directly to the west of where we are. Riz responded intuitively, projecting a map from the device embedded on her arm. So she has the 3D hologram map that shows where they are. That's pretty cool. And it says, blue lights flickered on and off over a massive map highlighting the locations. She showed me that across the sea, past the second ice walls and the second dome, lie lands called Anox, and further north, Avalon. South of Anox was a smaller but important island called Giges. Directly south, parallel to Lemuria, was the Bridge of Hades, which served as a connector between the second barrier and the third barrier, accessible through the path of eternal fire. The lands of Avalon are hostile towards humanity, and so are many of the species that inhabit that area. There are bases belonging to the gray beings from a dome world called Orion. Orion group is always into some bullshit. And the Edamans from Draco, which are the reptilians. We avoid that zone whenever possible since we've had several conflicts with their forces in the past. Conflicts that unfortunately did not go well for us. In Anax, there are also Orion Greys, but they mostly kept themselves for now. However, we plan to drive them out in the future. On Gigas, there are advanced underground bases and laboratories that the Anakin have explored. Several important projects are currently underway there, Riz concluded. And this is what it looks like. So look. Ventus added with a smile. If you choose to stay here, you might even get a chance to visit some of those places. Where can I meet other humans from my time? I asked. Ventus and Riz exchanged a glance, and then Ventus spoke. I want to hear what they got to say. There aren't exactly any humans from your specific time here. At this point, Ventus wasn't aware that some humans had already been rescued, as the mission was still ongoing. But several members of the new humanity have made their way here. One of the most important figures was William Morris. He came from your lands and became a key strategist in several plans to liberate humanity. Ventus continued, as you probably already have heard, time here flows differently from your own timeline, which allows people from different eras inside the first ice walls to coexist here. Although the toxins they bring with them from the inner lands shorten their lifespan compared to pure-born humans from these lands, they can still almost double the life expectancy they would have had back inside. Where can I meet William Morris? I asked. Unfortunately, you can't, Ventus said bluntly. He died during a rescue mission inside your homeland. However, you can meet his daughter, Helen, who is currently preparing for a long journey across many dome worlds. Was Helen born in my lands too? No, she was born here. But she's the daughter of a new humanity human and someone from the ancestral lands. Wow. Are there any other cases like hers? No, Riz replied firmly, without elaborating. I'd like to meet Helen then. How can I do that? Riz explained that if we travel to the ancestral lands, it would be extremely difficult for me to return to my own lands afterwards, because the adaptation process to outer environment will make it almost impossible for my body to readapt to the inner lands conditions after spending too much time here. Like I said, when I go, I'm not coming back. That's fine, I said. I was already thinking this was once in a lifetime opportunity, and I wanted to meet the only known child born from a human like me and an ancestral being. Perfect, says Riz. Then you'll travel south with Madri, since they'll be transporting the Rafishim, which is those herbs, right? I've just been informed that they've also brought several liberated humans from your lands who urgently need the herbs to recover. This way, you'll also meet your new brothers and sisters. Hearing this, Ventus gave Riz a warm hug of joy. Apparently, several humans had already been rescued from lands and brought here. Now it seemed my mission was to travel with the Magri, delivering the precious herbs to help these rescued humans recover, reducing their chances of developing severe health problems from crossing the domes. The transport vessel arrived, and the Magri crew informed Ventus that they were ready to depart. Neither Riz nor Ventus would be traveling with us, but Hatton would. At least I knew Hatton could speak my native language, which gave me a small sense of comfort in the ever-deepening sea of uncertainty. So, if you guys remember back when I was reading this, they never really responded as to what happened to the crew, right? When he woke up after he had been afloat or adrift, his entire crew was gone. And if you remember, they took him aboard the ship and they put him in a med bed, right? Y'all remember that? They gave him this tea to drink and they put him in this bed within the ship. Look, it floats. So my thing is, what happened to the crew? Was it that their energy source or their life force was not as pure as this gentleman's? And this is what they were using as far as to show him the different types of maps. This young lady had this device on her wrist, and it projected a 3D hologram, which is not far-fetched because we've seen that in TV shows. And even where I worked at in Anadarko, we had a floor animation or projector you could walk on, and then it projected up on the wall. So, I mean, that's not too far-fetched. We have the technology, right? I mean, that's pretty much what I wanted to comment on, is that they don't talk about what happened to the crew. He is one member that they've taken to several different domes. He's been drinking this infusion tea. Every time he crosses a barrier, they have to give him something. They have to give him medicine. And it wreaks havoc on your body. And because we're electromagnetic beings, this is why they have their cloud seeding with aluminum, barium, strontium, and I think is it chromium? It's like 4 ingredients that are detrimental to us. It causes dementia. It causes all kind of health problems for us as humans. And that mist comes down and it layers itself in the soil, the trees, the air we breathe. It's inside our bodies. We're breathing in nanite particles anyway, right? They're infusing everything with meat. They're infusing these ouchie fouchies with the meat, and we're taking that in. So we are being poisoned, and our lifespan is slowly dwindling down. But I dare say that there are some of those people that are here within our lands that are working diligently to help us as the new humanity. Do I believe in this? There is no question about a belief. It's either you know or you don't. And there is some whitewashing of history, right? No shade on my light-skinned brothers and sisters. But you must know that the original people of this dome, depending on what research you're looking at, were of melanated, like me, skin color, dark, if not even darker. And there are extraterrestrial forces that are dark or black-skinned, okay? So why do I say all this? Because we need to understand that we are truly one consciousness and one family, no matter what vessel that we're in. But the debauchery and the perversion will continue unless you educate yourself. So it's important for us to read these encounters and process it, take it in, and then focus on self and focus on reconnecting with source and ascending. The only way to bypass all of this mess is to ascend, right? So anyway, I've read from part 2, Navigators Who Cross the Ice Walls. Let me see. The camera's getting a glare on it if you want to take a screenshot. By Claudio, okay? And when I come back, I'm going to be doing a reading over the reptilians, and then we're going to get into the revival of wisdom. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. And remember what I always say, be the change that you want to see all around this earth dome, because it's up to you and I to make a positive change. I'll talk to you guys soon.